Hola, my Set by Design crew. So, if you want a different, normal, standard podcast like I usually do, this isn't the episode. It's not it. You've got no intro music, you've got no outro, and you've got no middle. But why? Well, I'm sitting here in a coffee shop now, as you could probably hear, right? And you've had conversations with me and Steph in different coffee shops over the years and things like that. But I'm sitting here in Colombia, and the reason I wanted to do these for the next 3 weeks, you're going to get these type of podcasts. Why? Because it's a long story. We'll get into it. But why I'm excited and want to put this out today? Raw. It's like raw. Because I'm sitting here in Colombia with one of my best mates in the entire world that I grew up with from Liverpool, and we're sitting in Colombia. So I want to introduce you to one of my best buddies, Mr. Leo Phillips.
Hello.
He's got a funny accent too. So you're gonna listen to two guys. But Leo, how good is this coffee?
Coffee's pretty good, but we are in the land of coffee, so what are you going to do?
Well, I was surprised, man. It's like I've been obviously in Panama for the last 18 months or so, and the coffee's good over there. But it's like everyone drinks it like water here.
Yeah, the coffee's insane. And the trick to Colombian coffee is Colombia is one of the few countries that still picks its coffee beans by hand. So you only get the freshest beans. So Brazil is the biggest producer of coffee, but it's all done by machine. So you get green berries, not just red berries or beans. Here it's by hand. Can you tell I've been on the coffee tour?
You can, mate.
So here it's done by hand. So you get a quality of coffee that you don't get from other countries.
Interesting. It's like I've had half a cup right now and I'm fizzing already, and it's like damn. It was interesting. When I was in Indonesia, living in Bali, I went and did a coffee tour into the mountains, and there was this day, and I didn't even drink coffee back then, but they come out and it's like they bring you like 20 shots of coffee, all different ones, and yeah, that's not good for your brain, by the way. No. But I was messed up. But the one that I think it's the most expensive coffee in the world, or one of them. It's the poo coffee.
Yes.
Is it Lakshma or Lax? I was going to say Lakshmi then, but that's a Hindu god.
I was going to say that's a goddess.
That's a different thing.
I don't know what it's called. I've seen it. I've drank it. Maria, my wife, she bought it as a present for her father when she was traveling over there.
And do you know what it tastes like?
Tastes nice.
Tastes like coffee.
Yeah.
But you know what was like broke my heart is when I went and saw where the coffee came from.
Yeah.
And you got this little animal in this little cage
being fed coffee.
Oh man. We're fucked up.
Yeah, because it becomes corporate, doesn't it? And people commercialize it and make money from it. So then the little animal's not walking around the rainforest choosing to eat coffee. It's in a cage being force fed.
That's right. And that's not good. But,
no.
But anyway, I shouldn't have opened that conversation, right?
Sure.
But what it brings you to is like what I wanted to... oh, by the way, this is a re-record. Because one of the stories we're going to get into today is I came through to Colombia, and I've never ever done this before, ever. But I was going through the security, and the guy moved my stuff around. And then they took my bag because it was loaded up with protein bars. So they took it and had a little look at it. And I left my Mac. I left my computer at the airport in Florida. I got it back. My girl's awesome. She went and sorted it out. But I haven't used a PC in years. So I was over here going, shit, what do I do? Am I going to send it over? But Leo and his girl took me to some awesome places. And
Al Costo.
Okay, that's where we went. And and guess how much I got a PC for? $200. How do you say that in Spanish, Leo? I'll put you on the spot now for 200, mate.
With the price or the actual $200? $200.
$200?
Sí, $200.
Oh, there you go. Right. So that's how much it cost me. So that's pretty damn good. But it's PCs. If you love them, well, fair enough, but they suck. They're so clunky. So I can't actually use the programs or anything like that to record a podcast. So I'm going to put a picture on, I'll put it on Instagram, I'll put it in the Facebook Incubator group, but it's yeah, you'll see my little Jimmy rig that we've got set up here. It's pretty awesome. But anyway, the point in this episode was, how do you see the world? So I'm re-recording this because the other one I apparently put on was blank after 35-40 minutes, so it's blank. So we're re-recording it. But how do you see the world? And so when we introduce like different countries, and obviously me and Leo are from just outside Liverpool, in the UK, but we traveled a lot. Leo's lived all over the world, I've lived all over the world, and it's really interesting to see the different cultures because, well, Leo, you've moved, like, what do you do? What do you call yourself now besides a human?
That's a very good question. I suppose currently, if we define ourselves by our work or what we do, I'm a yoga teacher currently right now.
That's awesome. But yoga teacher, your business, your brand, it's you, right? It's not like you and your wife.
No, we don't work for anyone. Activate Yoga is our brand. We create it ourselves. We give classes. We also certificate other people.
Yep. Retreats.
We do retreats. So we're more than a yoga. We're a yoga business. We're a yoga brand.
And you've also got t-shirts and everything.
We have
going
t-shirts.
on, mate.
We have cards. We've got the works.
Got everything. But it's awesome because we're going to get into it. But you're about to teach a 21-day ashram experience.
Yeah.
Not in Colombia. Well, it's always been done in Colombia lots of times by you guys, but in Liverpool.
Yeah, we're taking it back to the UK. Go home, reach out to my people, and take it there. Do what we do here, but try and do it there.
That's going to be so cool. And we're going to get into all of that, man. But the reason is it's cultures. And what we were talking about is I've been living in Panama, obviously, the past 18 months, and I love Panama. I really love it, man. I do. I've got so many cool friends there. It's an awesome vibe. But it's a very different feel to Colombia. And I use that word feel. I really do use that word feel, you know? Whether you want to go down the woo-woo and we start talking frequency, or whatever, right? It's just your perception. And what I found is that, we were just discussing it with Leo before, because we've lived, like, the difference between the UK mentality and Australia or the US and Colombia and Panama. And these are all beautiful countries, but there's a very different way of thinking and seeing the world. And do you know what blew my mind the first time I went to Panama, man? And I think you guys listening, you've already heard me rant on about this, but I went there and I was walking down the road and there was people sitting there in benches. That's what they were doing.
Yeah. People pass time outside. People talk. People chat. People hang out. You get that here. It's part of the culture. People hang out. It's not something that just teenagers do. Adults do it too.
And no one was on the phones.
No.
It's bizarre. It's like bizarre.
But it's not. But it is. But it isn't.
But it's normal, right?
It's what humans used to do before smartphones.
Right, before the world got fucked up by smartphones. But it's abuse, like, because how long have you been in Colombia for now?
It's 6.5 years now, okay? 6.5 years.
Damn.
Time passes, no?
Fast. So what's like, because you came straight from the UK, like you met your girl in India in an ashram.
Yes.
Which is a bizarre thing in itself.
Yeah, we went to India to meet a Colombian.
Did work that out. So how long ago was that? That's got to be 8 years or something, right?
2012.
Damn.
So yeah.
Were you straight from the UK then?
Yes, I went to the UK to India in the ashram, and I studied yoga.
Yeah.
I stayed there. I then went and travelled. I went to Canada, and then I went back to the same ashram as a volunteer and stayed in the ashram. And that is when Maria was doing her certification in yoga. So that's how we met.
That's crazy.
It's not where we got together. It's where we met.
Right, and then it was like, what, a while afterwards, right?
Well, yeah, because there's obviously strict rules in ashram between about contact and boys and girls mixing, really? That kind of thing.
Explain that, man. Explain the day in the ashram. So what time would you wake up? What would you do next? Explain that, man.
So the day starts, for most people, would get up about 4:30.
Okay.
4:30, 4:45. Coffee, as they called it, which wasn't coffee. It was a drink made from soy flour and something else.
But we didn't have caffeine in it?
No, there's no caffeine. It was just a hot drink, essentially.
Okay.
That was made and served at 10 past 5. Then chanting sessions would start at 20 past 5.
So press pause. Chanting sessions.
Sessions.
So explain the scene. So here you are. What's the ashram look like? Are we talking like what you think about an Indian temple, or you think are we in the middle of nowhere? What we explain that?
No,
ashram?
it's in rural India.
Okay.
There are sort of porter cabin rooms.
Okay.
And it's cut into a hillside, so it's on steps. It goes up into levels, and then you've got a big main building, like 2 or 3 stories high, which is where you eat. Like a brick building, like more of a modern building. And then there's a hall, looks pretty much like a school hall, I suppose.
Oh, wow, okay.
Only one floor, not high, corrugated roof. And that was where that was practice room. So that was where or Patanjali Hall as it was called.
How many people?
On my course there was about 30. I think on the course Maria was on, there was closer to 50.
Wow, so quite a lot of people.
I was there, I went in the monsoon. Apparently no one goes in monsoon season, but me and 30 other people did.
Apparently they do.
But it was funny, it had an impact on the experience. So the experience I had with the people there was much more introverted because it rained a lot. So you weren't outside socialising. On the course Maria was on, one of the ones I was there volunteering for, it was warm, it was sunny, people were outside, people were sat, people were talking. It was
totally different vibe. Totally different vibe. So there you were, 5:15 in the morning, and it was wet, obviously outside.
My one's wet and dark.
Wet and pitch black, man.
Yeah.
What can you hear?
Crickets.
Crickets, so you're hearing, like, is the monkeys?
The first birds are waking up. No, there were no actual monkeys around where our ashram was, but of course we were opposite a mountain.
Oh, beautiful.
And it was Hanuman's mountain. So there are 2 places in India known for the birthplace of the monkey god Hanuman.
Yeah.
One is Hampi, very, very famous.
Yeah.
And the other one is a mountain that sits on the edge of a little village called Trimbuk.
Okay.
Which is a holy site. It's a Shiva site.
Wow.
So that's where the ashram was.
That's
so
amazing.
The mountain was full of monkeys. We didn't have them in the ashram, so you didn't hear them.
That's good. Monkeys, I love them, but they're the most annoying fucking things out.
No, and these have great huge canines and all. Like, you don't want to go near them monkeys.
Do you know what put me off? It was the monkey forest in Bali. If you've ever been there, and it's all beautiful for the first couple of days. I was working next to it, so you go there every day. These monkeys are assholes, man.
Oh yeah, they rob you, they bite.
Yeah, I've watched so many people get bit. You want a different story. Anyway, back to your ashram, mate.
Yes.
So there you were, 5:15 in the morning. You'd have your hot soy drink.
Yes.
Then you'd sit down. Was it cold or warm, or what was going on?
It was. I mean, for Indian, it was cold.
Right, cold in the morning.
Yeah, it wasn't so cold for someone from England, but you certainly wouldn't describe it as warm. So you'd go into Patanjali Hall, the practice room.
Okay.
Mr. White, who led chanting, was there. He was called Mr. White because he dressed all in white. He was a Jainist.
A Jainist? What's a Jainist?
Someone who follows Jainism.
I don't know what
Jainism is one of the most ancient religions in India. So they make vegans look like terrible people. They don't believe in harming anything.
So what do they eat?
They eat vegetables, and fruits. I mean, they have a completely vegan diet.
Fruits, meaning they're like seeds. So they're like.
They eat a complete vegan diet. They don't use motorized vehicles. They don't ride horses. They don't use bikes because you can't control whether you kill an animal as you move.
Wow.
So they walk everywhere. If a Jainist priest, for example, from the north of India, has a meeting with somebody in Mumbai, he leaves his house with 3 months to spare and he walks to Mumbai.
Damn.
Yeah, they carry little brooms and they sweep the floor in front of them to remove insects and whatever else.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so this guy led chanting. A really cool guy. He was in his 70s, could stand on his head and...
Was he Indian?
Yeah. So he'd be sat wrapped in blankets. Or you'd see him...
Proper Baba style.
Yeah, or you'd see if Mr. White... I mean, he didn't have the long beard, but you'd just see these glasses sticking out from under all these blankets because it was cold for them.
Wow.
And he'd be sat, and then you would slowly filter in if you made it out of bed. Not everyone did. And you would begin the various different chants.
So what was the purpose in the chants? And what type of chant? Are we talking normal mantra like you hear Indian mantra?
Yeah, traditional Indian mantras. And again, so it's about connecting with yourself, They are obviously, it's the optimum time for that type of thing, that early in the morning.
For sure.
So you wake up right, you set yourself right, you get your energy right, and all this is done before the asana practice, which begins at 6.
Asana practice meaning like the sun salutations and the actual yoga.
Well, the physical and what people see as yoga are physical positions and postures. So that is asana class, which is the typical yoga class.
What you think? So the other side of that, is that classed as yoga nidra?
No, yoga nidras would be done in the afternoon as a separate entity. Yeah.
Because you introduced me to yoga nidra.
Oh yeah, yoga nidra. That's what I found it. Yoga nidra is mind blowing.
And you know what blew me mind? Remember, I used to suffer from staph infection.
Yes, a
so
lot.
like incredibly, like horrifically, man. Like to the point, if you don't know what staph infection was, it sounds horrific. It is horrific. But what it's from is it's from fighting. It's from MMA. It's from grappling. If you're an MMA guy out there or a grappler, you've probably got some staph. You know what it's exactly like. So, but this was the bizarre thing. It feels like you get a fever, and you would get a fever. You get boiling hot, but on the outside you wouldn't feel it, and it'd be like an intense flu fever. It's horrible. And I've been to hospital twice after it. Doctors couldn't fix it. No one could fix it. Guess what fixed it?
Yoga Nidra.
Explain Yoga Nidra, man.
So Yoga Nidra is a form of deep relaxation. You lie down and you follow pre-recorded instructions. The crux of it is you set yourself an intention and then you rotate your consciousness around your body. In doing so, you slowly switch off the external cortexes, which connect us to the external world, and then you operate solely on the level of your conscious awareness. Physically, you're switched off. You're listening because you're following the instructions, and you have some sensation. Some of the instructions on you feel heavy, you feel light, things like this. But other than that, you're solely operating on your deeper level, your deeper consciousness. And in doing that, your brain is controlled, and you produce certain different brain waves. So it's essentially, Yoga Nidra is the moment between sleep and awake.
Yeah.
So you put yourself in that moment and you extend it.
That's awesome. It's awesome. That's a great explanation. And what I'd add to that, to even simplify it, it's basically you're lying down, you're trying to stay awake, and you are literally going, the back of my hand, the front of my hand. This is not verbally, but you're literally focused, because the instructor or the audio, obviously Leo's doing it live, but the audio was like your left finger, your middle finger, and it's going around your whole body. And what's amazing, it is a meditation, for the simple fact, meditation is about holding your focus on a specific thing for a long period of time. And that basically, like Leo said, shuts off the monkey mind. Right? So what it's doing is it's dropping your brain into alpha. It's alpha wave. So when you're in alpha wave, you're in that certain frequency, and that's another way you can start visualizing, programming your brain. You know that, because when you're in that place. But every time we did that Yoga Nidra, I'd have to come round, and Leo would take me through. We were in the UK coincidentally at the same time for about 6 months. And he'd take me through that, and by the end of each session, I am not joking you, my staff had been reduced by 90%. And this is no word of a lie. From being in bed, like basically having it feels like pneumonia, to being able to go out and hang out with my mates.
Yeah.
It was shocking.
It's powerful. It works on physical ailments, but also, like you said, you can use it for programming your mind. Yeah. The other thing that makes Yoga Nidra a Yoga Nidra is the intention. So you begin with an intention, you then go through the process of rotation, visualization, and then at the end you plant in again the intention, whatever it might be. I want to give up smoking, I want to be successful, I want to be the ruler of the world, whatever it is you want to be. And they describe it as if you prepare the land and make it fertile, the seed will always grow.
I love that.
And the Yoga Nidra is preparing the landscape of the mind, and you plant in your intention, and boom, you get flowers.
Man, they've been doing this for thousands of years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're talking brainwaves, and these guys knew what they were doing. Like, you set an intention so you have a focus. This is Napoleon's Hill, Think and Grow Rich. This is quantum physics. This is neurolinguistics. It's the same thing. And then they go, so So you focus on intention, you circulate around the body, which puts you into a trance, and then you're programming your brain because the intention again is like you're future pacing, or you're thinking about you in the perfect scenario in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. So that was in the afternoon. So back to your ashram.
Okay.
So you got Mr. White sitting
Mr.
there
White
with his goggles,
in his
blanket.
under his blankets.
Do you actually know his name? Mr. White sounds like it's out of Reservoir Dogs.
I can't remember his name. No, that's terrible.
Call him Alan.
Alan. That was the only contact really that we had with him.
We're in a coffee shop.
So he didn't really teach in the ashram, at least not while I was there on the courses I was on. But he lived within in the ashram. Obviously, ashrams provide housing and food and community for many yoga people. So he lived there, and that was what that's what he gave to the community. He gave the chanting sessions in the morning. Very clever man, though.
Oh, I'm sure.
If you got the chance to sit down with him and discuss things, he was a very clever man.
I'm sure. And what a beautiful life.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that. When we talk about, let's just interrupt there for a second. Let's think about different cultures. What do you do today? I'm talking to you you're listening. What did you do today? How did you feel by the end of the day? Were you happy? Were you content? Maybe, maybe not, right? This dude lived the most simplest life you could possibly live. And he would bet he was so happy.
Always. He didn't own anything.
Was he young? Did he look young?
No, for his age. He was
70.
He was in his late 70s.
That's what I'm saying. Did he look...
He looked out, he had a young complexion, his skin was good, he walked around, he moved about.
Mobile.
He still practiced yoga.
Wow. That's mind-blowing, We got some things going on that's wrong. Obviously, the difference is society can't expand and consciousness can't expand, and whether we're supposed to do a bigger destiny as a human race, I don't know. That wasn't what his role was. His role was to put the God's juice into everybody else who can go out and ripple through the world.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We're talking about cultures and different views and cultures, and obviously India's a melting pot of different culture. But generally, over there, it's accepted when people don't actually fulfill traditional roles within society. They don't have to own a house. They don't have to own a job, have a car. I mean, you get renunciants, the sadhus. They give everything up.
Yeah.
People do that in Britain, in the States, in Australia. They're called homeless, and they're crazy, and people avoid them. Over there, they're seen as austere. They're seen as sacred. They're listened to. A man sat in the street with nothing is a man to listen to because he has figured it out. He knows society doesn't mean anything, and he's on a different path. And I think it gives a freedom for people to do that, to shed what society says and thinks they should be, and search the path that is truly theirs. And that's something that's beautiful. Our modern cultures struggle with.
They do, because again, I always talk about this, and everyone listening probably gets annoyed with me, but society is a business.
Yeah.
101, society is a business, and if you don't understand that, and this is the first time you're listening to Mindset by Design, you got about 260 episodes to crank through to work out what I'm like. But society is a straight business, and if you're in that business and you do not realize it's a business, then have a little think about what you're doing each day. And I'm not saying not to do it, but you need to be aware of it. And then you need to, how do I use society to live a life by my own rules? Which is why I can sit in Colombia right now, Which is why I can pick my laptop and be wherever I want to be in the world. And I'm very lucky by that. But that was normal society of people is like, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't own this and do this and got that?
Yeah.
But you're talking about in India, that's like revered.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing around with an idea of writing a book. I am writing several at the minute.
You are?
Homeless Holy Man.
Homeless Holy Man.
And it's the comparison between the two societies and how actually the homeless man in Britain is seen as crazy and weird, and why would you want to trust someone who doesn't want what we want? Whereas they say in India they're followed and listened to. Now that's not to say they all have something interesting to say.
No, people are crazy.
Exactly, it does happen. But it's just the fact that people don't automatically judge and decide that you're nothing because you don't have or want what they have and want.
That's profound, man. That's profound. It really is. And so, in your ashram, then you'd do the mornings.
Yeah, you do the morning, you finish your 2-hour asana class an hour at 8 o'clock, and then you'd have an hour of karma yoga, which is just service for the sake of service.
So that means looking after the ashram?
Yeah, cleaning, preparing.
Service
for the sake of service, for no other reason. You're not attached to an outcome. You're cleaning a floor that someone's about to walk over. It's monsoon. Have you ever mopped the floor in the monsoon?
No.
Yeah, you're not mopping the floor. You're just doing action for the sake of action.
So, in other words, a movement meditation.
Essentially, yeah, but it goes beyond movement because it's action. Some of the actions weren't necessarily movement. Some of them may be preparing food, for example, in the kitchen, or...
So, like when people talk about walking meditations, so that's it's preparing food or whatever. But
it's an action meditation.
Okay, action meditation.
It's like working meditation, if you like.
Okay, but with the intent is to be present.
Yeah, to be present and aware of your action for no other reason than that.
That's beautiful.
So karma, the word karma, literally translated from Sanskrit, means action.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So karma yoga is the yoga of action. So you put yourself in action for others.
Oh, that's huge.
So you do that for an hour.
Yep.
Then it's breakfast.
What's for breakfast, mate?
Well, it was a ascetic diet. So
Ascetic?
Ascetic. So that meant there was no garlic, there was no onion, there was no chili. A lot of rice-style dishes, different various types of rotis and breads, fruits for breakfast, sometimes porridge. Porridge was a good day. Andy knows me for a long time, and I'm not so bad now, but 10 years ago, I was an incredibly fussy eater. So the ashram was a huge challenge for me, because I became a vegetarian overnight, and I had to eat all these foods that I didn't like. So when I went in the morning and it was porridge, it was like music to my soul, and it was like, yes.
Was the porridge good?
Porridge was good.
I bet you it was
porridge
good,
was
right?
good. So yeah, that was breakfast, and then like a ginger tea afterwards.
Ginger tea for the energy. No caffeine again.
No caffeine.
That's awesome.
They had ginger tea
as we're drinking our coffee.
As we're in a coffee shop drinking coffee.
And let's add some banana bread.
Yeah.
Hey, but that's pretty good. Gluten-free, natural banana bread. Your girl bought me.
Yes.
Hey.
Tierra Verde.
Oh, by the way, happy Valentine's Day, Leah.
Happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
Everybody out there. So then you did that for an hour or so.
You did breakfast.
You did breakfast.
You would then rest after breakfast for a short period. So, you'd have like an hour and a half of breakfast, but of course you eat in half an hour or whatever it would be.
So then you go and lie down?
Well, they would recommend not to. You take time, self-reflection, read your books, whatever it might be, and then lectures begin. So then you'd have lectures. So where are we now?
Obviously in English.
8, 9, yeah. So lectures would begin about 10:30.
Okay.
And then that would take you through to dinner time. And your lectures would cover anything from anatomy and physiology to yogic philosophies. The subtle energetical body and everything that comes with it. It was.
Chakras and all the rest of it.
Yeah. The difficulty with my course is it was a corrugated roof and it was monsoon, so there would be times where you would have to sit silently because you couldn't hear anything, and they would wait for the monsoon the cloud to pass and the rain to lighten because it didn't stop, and then they would carry on with the lecture.
That's cool, though. That's cool.
It's good.
After.
Well, it teaches you. It's a practical lesson in acceptance. You have to accept the fact that it's raining right now. We can't speak and you can't hear. Yeah.
Control, no attachment, right?
Yeah, let go.
Or you can get annoyed, right?
Exactly. Or you can be annoyed by the fact of this is my lecture time and I can't hear. No. Sit, quiet, whatever.
I've only got 8 days left and I need to do this and what's going on here, then I've got to do... Right.
Yeah, so then you would eat. Okay. You would eat, again, lunch, rice, some kind of form of vegetable curry, a roti or something.
Okay, so so it's vegetarian I should say, not vegan.
Thinking about it, you're vegetarian because the food would be cooked in ghee, so yeah.
I was going to say, where are you getting the fats from, what your proteins from,
the food would be cooked in ghee, but that would be it really. There was no egg, because vegetarian in India means no egg.
Yeah.
The only animal product that you would have would be the ghee.
Which is Indian butter, basically.
It's purified butter. Yeah, they heat the butter and boil it, and it starts to separate, and then they scoop the stuff off the top.
Oh.
So it's
like the cream.
Yeah, so it's not as bad. It's better for you. Your body can deal with it better than normal butter. Yeah, but it's still butter.
That's why Indians have little bellies, because they eat rice all day.
Exactly.
But that's, again, talking about different cultures. That's actually a sign of, it's like a good thing over there, right? In the normal old school society.
Yeah, I don't think people have the same body attachments or body shame, I don't know what you would call it, issues that you get in the West, that's for sure. Interestingly, in a different course I did, a little sidestep, there was somewhere we were doing about vamin, which is which is a form of cleansing, akrija.
Not famine.
No.
Vamin,
which is a form of induced vomiting.
Oh, nice.
And the question was asked,
are you bulimic?
To bulimia. And the teacher that was teaching us asked what's bulimia. And so the girl described to her what bulimia, and she was like, what? People do what? And it was a foreign... I'm not saying it doesn't exist in India, please don't get me wrong.
Of course.
But within their culture, with the reality that exists is that they knew that they had where they lived. The idea of someone that was bulimic, someone that had such a body image issue that they would throw up their own food was like, what? It didn't exist to them. They weren't aware of it.
Because they haven't got the attachments of the physical side as well, because it's all an internal growth.
Yeah, why would you have a problem with having a belly? That's what happens when you live. You get bellies.
Well, the crazy thing is, human beings, it's like all day we're trying to fight not putting fat on. Yeah, it's like the human body wants to put fat on because that's what it does.
We store. But again, it comes back to the whole theme of today. Culture, it depends on what culture you're in. If you're a Pacific Islander, for example, the bigger you are, the better.
Yeah. I've trained with a lot of those boys, man. They're big boys. Oh my God. They're big boys and they hit hard. But that's what my older days.
Yeah.
Back to India. So once you'd done that, you'd done lunch, then you had lectures in the afternoon.
Yes.
And then what?
Well, you'd have a 2-hour break after, including your dinner, so you'd have time to rest if you want, or read, work on your projects, because there were always written projects to do.
Oh, really?
And the students took it upon themselves, having discovered Yoga Nidra, to do a daily Yoga Nidra practice during that time. And then after that, you would then have another 2-hour asana class, physical yoga.
Wow.
Then another chanting session.
Wow.
Of an hour where they'd make the sacred fire, which they use like cowpats to do, and there would be
what to do?
Cowpats.
Cowpats.
Yeah, the name of the fire escapes me. It's terrible.
Cowpat fire?
Yeah, well, it's incredibly flammable. It's a fuel.
So they used to light cowpats.
It's dried, but yeah. So they make a heath, a hearth.
Yeah.
And it would be ceremonially done. Yeah, essentially. Yeah, I mean, well, exactly. It is all it is. And this would be one of the karma yogas in the daytime, would be to prepare this for the evening. And then they would burn it, they would chant a particular mantra every night. It lasts for about 45 minutes, 108 repetitions.
Yeah, of course, right.
And then they'd put the fire out, everyone would get a mark of the ash on their third eye, the eyebrow centre. And then we would eat in the evening. And then after that, there would be discussion sessions where we could bring any issues we'd had in the day or any philosophical questions we may have from the things we've been learning.
And that would be someone that would be in the group, or that would be like you'd be listening to an instructor?
Well, the teachers would be there, the ashram guys would be there to answer the questions, but essentially it would be group-led. They would be there to facilitate.
Oh, okay.
And then your day would then finish around about 8 o'clock. So your day would start at 4:30. You would finish at 8, but then of course 8:30, people would then have a little bit of talk time, interaction time. You would have assignments to write. So you would actually be in bed by maybe 11, 12.
So you're only getting like 4 or 5
hours sleep, but guess what? You don't need more. When you're practicing yoga every day, and I mean yoga, I don't mean asana class, I mean all aspects of yoga.
Yeah.
After a week, 4 hours, 5 hours was fine. Yeah. Plus your diet's changed, it's a lot lighter, your vibration changes.
And that's talking about vibration there. We're going to go a little down the woo-woo. I follow a lady for many, many years called Amma, the Hugging Saint. Millions and millions and millions of followers all over the world. But it's like, I've been to her events many times, and like in London and LA and stuff, and you're there doing service basically. I'm clearing dishes for 3 days, you know, and I've paid hundreds of dollars in hotels, and she doesn't charge for her events. But
so that's a form of karma yoga, or seva.
That's my point.
Seva is another aspect of karma yoga, which is service for others.
Gotcha. And then you got the ability to go up and be on stage and help Amma actually do darshan, so which was beautiful. So you'd be next to Amma, like literally hand in her hand, and that sounds like woo-woo as hell. And we're in a coffee shop, and you'd be there for 3 days, and you wouldn't sleep. Yeah. I wouldn't sleep, and you'd be full of energy.
Especially around someone like her. I'd say their energy is powerful, it's pervasive. It gets into you.
Oh, it's crazy, and you don't want to leave.
No.
You don't want to leave that frequency. You don't want to leave. It's I don't know. And this is why people. It sounds way woo-woo, but until you've been around somebody like that. Do you know there was a documentary maker in the UK? Oh, what did he? I can't remember his name. He was famous for doing like interviews. He'd be like the one that'd be really annoying, and he'd go in. Oh, I can't remember his name.
Louis Theroux.
Louis Theroux.
The one that would be annoying. Well, Louis Theroux.
Yeah. And he did all these documentaries, amazing stuff, but he'd be annoying, and he'd go around doing stuff.
Well, annoying might have. I was going to say provocative is a better word.
He's a journalist, right?
Yeah.
But he went to America to look at all these different religions. And he went round and he butchered them all, going, what the this, what's that? He went to Amma. He came out crying.
Really? I've not seen that.
He came out going, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. Everything's changed. And that's this guy who just went back to back with the religions, then comes out crying after Amma. Anyway, that's not me pitching Amma.
But that's what kind of gives birth to Bhakti Yoga, which is the yoga of devotion. People want to be around these gurus because they have something which draws people to them.
It's incredible. And I don't know, we talk about guru, the word guru, right? Guru's been a butchered word, especially when, what's the movie? My brain's not working today. The movie with the same guy who did Austin Powers.
Yeah, I know you mean.
What's his damn name?
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers, not Michael Myers. He's not out of Friday the 13th, but Mike Myers. Yeah. But yeah, he did something about Guru. The film's Guru, something Guru. It's funny as hell.
Yeah,
it's a funny film if you've not seen it anyway. But so back to your point. So how long were you in the ashram for?
The first time, a month. The course lasted 4 weeks, so I was there for a month. And I wanted to stay.
That's what I'm getting to.
I wanted to stay.
And why did you want to stay?
Because I was afforded the space to truly start to discover who I was. All my preconceived ideas of who I am, who I should be, how I should live, fell away in that time. Because all I had to do was focus on, if all you do is eat, yoga, sleep, yoga, eat, yoga, sleep, yoga, guess what? You start to strip away all those layers you've built up over the years.
The programming.
Yeah, well, I came through school dyslexic. I was labelled dyslexic. I couldn't read. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I read 12 books in 4 weeks. 12 books. I hadn't read 12 books in my life before that, in the 30 years I'd been on the planet, including the bedtime stories with my parents. I hadn't read 12 books. I read 12 books in 4 weeks. I started to write, and I didn't stop. And it's like, I'm not the person I was told I am. And I went away. I left the ashram. I travelled with some people I met there. I flew and visited a friend in Canada, spent time there. It was great, a great experience. But I was called back. I wanted to go back. Yeah. So I returned, and I spent another month as a volunteer.
That's amazing. That's pure service.
Yeah.
Pure service. And that's where you met your girl.
And that's where I met my wife.
Funny how you were pulled
back to meet my wife. Yes.
How funny is that, man?
Yeah.
How funny is that? And that's where we get into synchronicity. And again, we're going down the rabbit hole today in a different way, right? We go down the rabbit hole on this podcast with so many different angles, but it's something. It's spirituality to me. You can use it whatever semantic you want to that word, whatever context you want with that word. But spirituality to me is just a connection with yourself and like we talk about Nikola Tesla, you can go anywhere, right? It's like talk about quantum physics. There is a frequency. This world is vibration. Have you ever seen the studies? I'm sure you have, Leo. Like there's videos on YouTube, and it's iron filings on like a sheet of metal, and then someone will use sound frequency.
It goes into a pattern.
They go into geometric, like DNA, sacred geometry patterns, like just going, and these literally the iron filings are going into three-dimensional structures.
This is where mandalas come from.
Yeah.
And so again, in yoga, the sound wave is seen as the building block of the universe. First, there was Om, and out of Om developed the word, and out of the word became society. You know? So these mantras are sounds that were revealed to sages and rishis in deep states of meditation, but so were the mandalas, the geometric patterns and shapes, and these shapes are reflective of the sounds. The sounds form the words give us reality.
Gotcha. So if you've ever done magic mushrooms out there, you're going to see some geometric patterns.
Yeah.
And that's the point. It's a filter. It's opening your filter system up to see a different reality that we're not seeing, right? And there's other ways to get there besides doing plant medicine, but that's definitely one way. And the other way, as I say, is deep internal work through yoga and meditation and all of these things. And maybe it's fire breath, maybe it's Kundalini breath work. It's all inner work, right? And so that leads us to the next topic of really talking about different. And this is what I was talking about on my own. So this is probably more of an interesting podcast than the one that was originally put out, right? So we talk about different cultures because, Leo, you've lived in, obviously, the UK near Liverpool. I say near Liverpool because if there's any Brits listening...
Go, it's not Liverpool.
No, yeah, well, it's like 10 minutes away from Liverpool, but it's not Liverpool. So you lived in Australia for a while?
I grew roses in Australia, for a period with friends. A very cathartic experience in a time in my life where I needed some self-love and some alone time, and you get that when you grow roses in rural Australia.
For sure. For sure. And you so that's where so where else you been? You've been a couple of places, right?
Yeah, I spent time in Thailand.
Oh,
we met out there. We stayed out there for
we did. That was another synchronicity.
Together. Yeah. So to Thailand, did a bit of travelling around there.
Cambodia you went to?
Cambodia,
Machu Picchu?
did Laos, Angkor Wat, all that sort of stuff for the backpacker trail. Then I spent a bit of time in Russia working.
Oh yeah.
With children of billionaires, teaching them English. The little girl didn't like me. I said no. She wasn't
used to that.
Wasn't used to that concept, so she didn't like me, and it fell apart. But it taught me a lot in the short period I was there. Again, about mindsets and how people are taught anything is possible, and how others are limited by their education system, by their upbringing, unconsciously, but it's done. Or maybe not in terms of the education system. But.
And this is where we're getting to with cultures. This is where we're leading to with this. So you saw all of these different. If we take each one, and I like to see them as worlds, right? Unique entities. They're like living, breathing things on their own. Each culture, and if you understand that, you can step into a different universe, different world, because these cultures really are. If you look at the Thai culture compared to the English culture, that is a different universe.
Yeah.
It's a different dimension.
Yeah, it is. Especially once you get into the rural parts.
Which you saw all of that.
Yeah. It is. In some places, I know in Laos there's a place they call 4,000 Island, Dong Dat and Dong Den and various other names. And on some of those islands, it's as if life hasn't particularly changed in the last sort of 400 or 500 years.
Are they happy?
Yeah.
That's my damn point, man. I'm packing up soon, I'm telling you. You're not going to get the podcast out of me in 18 months. I'm out.
I mean, of course, life has changed. Life always changes. That's what life does.
Yeah, of course.
But there's no motor cars. It's all done by hand. The electricity is limited. to the areas where the backpackers go. You know, I mean, it's people live a more naturalistic life, more in the rhythms of nature, and I think humans flourish when they do that. I think humans flourish when they do that.
And we talk about frequency again. It's like, what's a big concept these days, even with neuroscience? Grounding, right? They tell even these neuroscientists, they're telling humans to get into nature and walk barefooted.
Find green space.
Yeah, and what is it? Ions that get put into. I can't remember. I told you my brain's not working today, everybody. But but that's it's like if you ever feel stressed, go for a walk in the woods.
Yeah.
20 minutes, you won't feel stressed anymore.
Oh.
And that's what I feel. It's like a harmonic, and that's what we're talking about. Sacred geometry before. We're talking about frequency, and we're talking about the mandalas, and we're talking about those things. I really believe everything's like a tuning fork, and you go ding, and if you dinged enough, you would match that frequency. Do you know what a metronome is?
Yeah, it keeps rhythm.
Yeah. Well, I've said this study before, but it's like Steph told me about this study actually, and what they've done is these massive studies. They put a group of metronomes in the same room, all at different paces. They go all at different paces. If you leave them there, they all synchronize.
Really?
Yes. Every metronome synchronizes with each other. And that isn't random.
Well, humans are the same.
Yes.
Human cycles will synchronize when lived in close proximity. I mean, the most obvious one of known this is with women.
In the office, right?
In close proximity, their menstrual cycles will sync. Men have cycles too. Hormonal cycles. And the same thing happens when you live in community. You sync up and you start operating on the same patterns and rhythms as the people around you.
So think about that from your network right now that you're listening to, crew. Who are you around every day, right? What are you reading every day? What are you watching every day? Are you around people who you aspire to be like? Are you around people that hold you up to a higher standard than you even hold yourself? Are you around people that want the best for you? Or are you around people like we know who we grew up with who don't want the best for you? They want to see you suffer because it's their ego. They want to see you fail. And it's not necessarily they even know this consciously, but they don't want you to do better than them.
No, they want you to be like them.
Yes.
It justifies their own life and existence.
Justifies them not getting in themselves together and pushing hard to see that's possible in their life, right? Yeah. So if you're around people like that, and it's often with families, right? It's often families that pull you down and friends who you grew up with. It's not that they don't love you. They do love you. But it's outside their reality. And we talk about these different dimensions, countries. It's outside the box, right? I talk about the box, right? It's outside of their box. So if something's outside of their box, they don't know what it is. And if they don't know what it is, they're afraid of it. And if they're afraid of it, what do they want you to do? Get back in the box.
Yeah, avoid it. Don't go there.
Don't do that. I remember my grandma, and I've spoken about my grandma a fair few times on the show over the years. And it was like the first time I went to Australia, like I just packed up within 6 weeks, packed my bag and off I went, right? Didn't know anyone, just went over the other side of the world with $2,000, spent it in a month and carried on, Because unlike Leo, he doesn't care where he lives.
No. No, that's not true, but
you know what I mean?
But
you could sleep on the edge of the road, be content.
Yeah, my standards are on a sliding scale.
Yeah, but that's a beautiful thing. I went over to Aussie. I was staying in 4-star hotels for the month. I didn't care, right? Listen, it's like, I'm from nothing. And it's like, I just spent all my money on hotels. But that's always like me. For some reason, I like shiny shit. But what we're talking about is like harmonics. What we're talking about is frequency. What we're talking about is we can go into mirror neurons and we can talk about how the brain replicates, and we talk about DNA structure. But here, what we're talking about is like you being around the correct people. And where I learned myself was like Leo was talking about. He went to India and started to find himself because no one put a boundary around who he was. No one put an association with the past, so he didn't create an identity for him that he then had to live into. And that's what happens, because people don't want you to change, because it means then they have to look at themselves. So when I got to all these different countries, including Australia, it's a beautiful thing, because the only people that knew anything about you was the things that you told them about you.
Traveling, that's a great freedom. You can be who you want.
You can be who you really are.
Yeah.
And so there was no boundaries then. So they tell you, well, who are you? Well, guess what? Before it was like, no, this is who you are. Then it's like, who are you? Well, I'm actually this. So I'll try other stuff. I'll expand. I'll like, when I first got to Australia, man, I was still shy. You know, I really was. No one had ever allowed me to be me, and I didn't know who I was. And my identity came through martial arts, and martial arts is aggression. So the way people knew me, I was aggressive growing up.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's how I knew that was Murphy, the black belt.
Yeah, and I fought.
Yeah. Oh, he's a black belt. That was like the second thing. The first thing that came after, it's Murph. He's a black belt.
Right, and then I was, I was scrapping. It's funny, we used to come back. My mates will go out drinking and fighting at the weekends. I'd been fighting 6 days in that week. I'm battered and bruised, and they wondered why I wasn't like kicking up in the streets.
Yeah.
I don't want to fight, man. I just want to chill. But back to our point is that when I got to Australia, it started to show me who I was, and I still didn't know. And then I found neurolinguistics, and I found sales. And you get put into an environment that you have to be expressive, confident, influencing. You have to really start expanding who you are. And that took me 5 months. And after 5 months, I didn't know who I was, but I'd been trained to be a certain type of person. And I was at top in the country, right? So you learned then to influence at the highest level. And then it wasn't until I got to New Zealand and we're still doing the same thing, and I started to grow who I was. But really, this is where I'm getting to. It wasn't until I'd had a nervous breakdown that I really started to reset everything. Top in the country, putting together, oh, look, Andy, he's putting together a resort in Fiji. It's all noise, right? It might be $100 million project, it might be this, it might be 27, but it doesn't matter. It's noise. It doesn't mean anything. And then when all that fake reality crumbles around you, then you have to. I watched my car being taken away. Oh, it's a BMW 5 Series, but it's okay. Doesn't matter. It's going away. And then living in the basement of a gym, it's like shit. These things that I thought were so important meant nothing.
Fade away.
They meant nothing. Nothing. And then it's funny over the years, really, and it was interesting, I was talking to Steph about this. She's like, I don't want to be in this conveyor belt of making money to pay to live a certain type of life that really we don't care about. You know what I mean? And that's what society, I teach it as a business. Society is a business. They want you to have the cars, the bling, the shiny, the status symbol. If you do not have these things, you are not worthy. So they keep you on the hamster wheel. Now, I'm not saying those things are not awesome, because they are awesome. If first class was free, would you be flying? You'd be flying first class. And I don't give a shit anyone that says you would be, right? If everything was first class and the economy was first class and it looked like first class, you'd be flying first class. It's just people's perception. But so the question is now man, back to you, Leo. Like, you've come over to Colombia and you've put yourself around a whole different universe, a whole different world. You're yogi in every day.
Yeah, my life's incredibly different now than the one I lived 10 years ago.
And so, are you more? How have you changed?
As a person, well, I'm literally, physically, day to day. I'm healthier. I no longer take substances and abuse myself. I don't find myself in conflict with the things around me. I eat clean, healthy food. These are the obvious steps that are different in my life, but they've then produced a different mindset. I no longer work 9 to 5 for somebody else. I am involved and responsible for shaping the world that I live in and I work in, along with my wife. Not.
That's beautiful what you just said. It's your responsibility to shape the world that you live in.
Yeah.
Think about what you just said there. It's your reality, it's your world, it's your universe. Whether we're talking about your reticular activating system in your brain, or whether we're talking about quantum, whether we're talking about the universe, whether we're talking about none of that shit. It's your life.
And you're responsible for it, and you're responsible for the things that are in it. And I have beautiful things in my world right now.
Yeah.
And I thank myself for that. I mean, you have to take risks. I came to a country that I don't know. I moved from my friends and my family and my culture, and came to a place where if you'd have told a lot of people I'm going to Colombia, they'd be like, "Oh, don't go there.
So many people.
Don't go there." I was talking to my mum today about it.
Oh,
the
really?
responses that she gets from people when she says, her own sister, "You be careful. Oh, go in there on your own."
Because they don't know it, right? What we talked about before.
And where I live and the city I'm in and the people I'm surrounded by, I've seen less trouble here than I've seen in the town I grew up in.
Oh,
and that's not to say it doesn't exist, but you're responsible for what you have in your world.
Right. If you want to play pretending to be a gangster, you'll find gangsters.
Well, yeah, but there ain't no playing.
No, it's not.
There ain't no playing over here. It's not a game.
It's not a game.
But the world is what you make of it, and
I really believe that.
And it's shown me coming here because I've been given a free sheet of paper, clean sheet of paper to build my blueprint.
Yes.
It's not that I can be who I want here, but I had a blank sheet to construct what I wanted, and I had people around me that were happy to support me, my wife's family, my wife, to do that.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's massive.
And it doesn't break your heart when you see potential in people, and they're just not.
Fear stops them. Fear stops them because everyone has potential to do and be who they want.
Oh, man.
And I speak to friends back home, and they'll still always be my friends. They're amazing people.
Absolutely.
But when you listen to them and you talk about doing this or doing that, it's all fantasy because at the end of the conversation there's a laugh and a joke and can't do that, can you? And there's all these reasons and blockages in their way where they can't do that. And it's fear. It's fear that puts it there. I can't go there. I've got a house, sell it. I can't go there. I have a job, leave it. I can't go there. It's dangerous, is it?
Are you sure? How do you know, man?
Exactly, do you know? Have you been?
Oh, sorry. You watched it on the TV.
This is the other thing. People experience the world. They don't experience it. They know it, sorry.
Yeah.
They don't experience it because they see it on television.
They see it.
They don't go and experience it. And look, television's a beautiful thing in some respects because it opens the door.
Same as the internet.
But you have to be able to go through that door and experience it, and only live in action. Karma brings us back to that whole karma yoga we were talking about before. Action is rewarded. If you take action, you're rewarded with life. Action drives life.
I believe that. I really believe that. And I don't believe that was where we go back to the movie, the book, which got famous 10, 15 years ago, The Secret. Right? And a lot of people got hurt by that, and if this is the first time you listen to the podcast, I don't talk about The Secret, man. Don't worry about that. We're just talking about The Secret because, in its truest element, it's true. It's absolutely true. If you were at the highest vibration of evolution inside of yourself, I really believe, if we're talking quantum, if we're talking anything, if there was clarity of if there was nothing in the way of your concept or idea or whatever it is, I believe you can pull that into your reality so damn fast. But what The Secret didn't show is the other 99% of growth that you have to go through to get there.
I think it was a mainstream Hollywood thing, and it shows people what they want to see. Oh, look, you can think yourself to where you need to be.
Right.
Well, you can, but you also need to work your ass off.
You need to work your ass, not sit in the chair and imagine a Lamborghini or whatever they were telling you.
Yeah.
And then it appears.
Well, if you sit in the chair, imagine a Lamborghini, and then go and work 10 hours a day and work your ass off, you will eventually find yourself with a Lamborghini.
There's a synchronicity that we talked about before, right? And And so when we look at all these different cultures, and we'll wrap it up soon because we go in an hour, but hey, we'll keep chatting. This is what me and Leah talk about. So it's talk about different cultures. So this is what the concept I was talking about in the other podcast that we've obviously vanished. But I really believe this. We're talking about genetics and epigenetics, and we're talking also about cultural beliefs. And if you look at the UK, this is what I was explaining before. If you look at the UK, I really believe in growth, and this is going to offend people. I don't give a shit, man. It's my podcast. So it's people are like in personal development or growth. People are like at least 10 to 15 years behind the US and Australia. Australia's like rapidly jumped into this. Now, is that offensive? Well, it's your ego that's being offensive because to me it's the truth. But why? So I look back at the lineage. I look back at history, and there's a monarchy, right? There's basically we've gone to India. There's a caste system. There is classes, and so it's only really the middle because of the internet that these people, everyday people like myself and Leo, will see a different world, and especially with today's like the younger generation, they're seeing infinite possibility. But before that, it's like you had an idea, I've told this story before, but it's like when I got to the end of school, we had a careers person come in, and the careers person was to show you what was next. And they give me 10 folders with hundreds of jobs or all shit, right? And I went through them all. And I don't want to do any of those, mate. And he was like, "Yeah, but that's what there is." And I was like, "No. I don't want to do any of that. What else is there?" And I remember this vividly. He looked at me, pulled a face, turned his back on me, and carried on with someone else.
Do you know, in my exams, same school, couple of years after him.
I'm old, mate.
At the end of the last exam, our deputy headmaster, Mr. Jones.
What up, Mr. Jones?
Yeah. A lot of issues with that man. Anyway, he said, for those people that would be interested, there's somebody here to speak to you about your future.
Oh, I can even imagine.
And the guy worked for an employment agency and was looking for staff to work in various factories in and around our town. Food factories, coat hanger factories, soap factories. And this is what he was suggesting for the pupils of that school. This is where you are. This is what's good for you.
Solid job that. Get on that factory.
Horrendous.
Oh my god!
But that's
the army.
That's like you would see. I think you were getting to about Britain. It has an established hierarchy, and
yes,
where you are within that hierarchy dictates what you do. And because it's so established,
yes,
people don't challenge it.
No, and that's the thing. And is there anything wrong with that? Well, yeah, there is, because it's not fair. It's not fair. Because everyone's a beautiful human. Everyone's got an amazing... There's no bad people if you get down deep inside. And now there's a lot of lunatics, but it's all on the outside. Even a psychopath loves something. Someone loves a psychopath.
Yeah.
You know? And it's a weird statement.
Might be killing, but he loves something.
He might love his cat.
Yeah, no.
Before he chops it up.
Yeah, and his mother or whoever. No, love is there somewhere.
Somewhere, right? But because of that, it's like people are put in a box, they're put in a frame, and that's a shame to me. It's just a shame. And that's why the entrepreneurial spirit has been dampened in the UK, unless you're in the finance world, right? Finance world's huge in the UK. Why? Because that's been an established thing for generations, and UK behind the scenes runs a lot of stuff in the finance world, man. And so, but then we compare that let's compare it to the opposite of Australia. Australia's a new country.
Yeah.
Well, it's not, but it is.
Yeah, in
right?
relative terms.
You know, unless you go into, again, indigenous cultures, and then it's a different thing.
It's probably one of the oldest.
It's probably
on that context.
It's the oldest, right?
Yeah.
Unless you go to the Great Rift Valley, is it, in Africa, where they think human beings were born, but I don't know, I don't think they looked at those Aborigines. The Aborigines don't have the same DNA as us.
They have part DNA of Davisonians.
Oh, I don't know, is that right?
Davisonians are another form of sapien.
Right.
And they believe that they came from Davisonia, which is why they get their name. But actually, there's a lot of evidence to suggest now that was the edge of their territory, and actually it went southwards towards Australasia, and there is the highest percentage of their DNA is in the indigenous Australian community.
Oh, interesting. See, Leah's a good guest then. But what, you look at Australia as a modern day culture. Guess what? Who was there? They were slaves, basically, and people who were outcasts. So that country and society was clean. Talk about that clean slate Leo spoke about before. That clean slate, right? So guess what happened? We had to build it from nothing. So guess what people do? They suddenly have a creative expression. They have an idea. They go and they become an entrepreneur.
Well, no, you see it here. We're in Colombia, and you see exactly the same thing. It's in the New World. The creativity here is unreal. Yes. The art on the walls and the street. You get on a bus here, and there's people singing and rapping and dancing, and they're good, man. They're not just people begging for money. They're good. They're the next artists. The traffic lights. People juggling fire, standing on shoulders. Cirque du Soleil, the traffic lights. I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. But also here, there's the stereotype of, people don't follow the rules, people break the law. But it's kind of true. Rules aren't enforced. But why is that? Well, there's a country that fought a revolution against authority, and they questioned authority. They broke free of authority. They gained their freedom. And again, I think that plays into the mentality. They look to create their own solution, and they don't need the structure of somebody else's law to tell them how they should live.
Right. So then guess what? Colombia grew in its own culture. Australia grew its own culture. It's the same why the entrepreneur, they talk about the American dream, right? But what's that really? That's having the ability to do what the hell you want and create a life that you want. And people, here's the difference, right? And it's changing rapidly in the UK. It's changing rapidly. It really, really is. But the truth is, I remember hearing this story by a guy. This is such an American cheeseball name, Brad Sugars.
Brad Sugars.
That's his name. Billionaire. Nice. Amazing guy. Billionaire. Amazing guy. Created, I think, a board game as well, Wealth something or other, which was insane. Amazing games. He'd teach you how to get out of society. But what happened there was he was, remember, doing the seminar with him, and he was saying that he'd worked his ass off for years and years to get this dream car. It was a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or something, and he'd worked his ass off, and it was like a childhood dream, and he was driving it. I think it was in the UK. I really do, because he'd obviously different countries. He lived in different houses. He's doing all right, and he pulled up at the traffic lights, and someone was walking across the road, stopped, spat on his car, and was like, "Fucking show off!" And he's like, "Whoa, what the hell?" He was all happy 2 seconds ago with his dream car, then I destroyed his day. And then he was driving in the US. And he pulled up a traffic light. Some guy stopped, looked at him, goes, "Wow, mate, nice car. How'd you do that?"
Yeah.
That's the difference. Now, is that bad? Is that good? Is that right? Is that wrong? No, it's what it is. But when you have the freedom to express yourself, then why wouldn't you want that car? I was talking about first class before. If it wasn't about the money or ego or status symbol, you just wanted to drive a sports car, then that's awesome, right? If you want to live in a beautiful big house, that's awesome. Does it make you better than someone? No. Does it make you better than Mr. Alan White?
Nah, Mr. White, no.
No, it doesn't make you better than him. It makes you not. It's what you want is your experience. And when you start to look at these different worlds, or these different countries, or these different towns, or these different cities, or these different ways of living, there is no right, there is no wrong. And so if somebody's telling you that you can't do something, give them the finger and carry on, right? Because at the end of the day, maybe we'll wrap it up right now with this, go back to one of the most profound things that anyone's ever said to me in the history of my life. There's two things. One was when I first got to Australia with my mentor, Peter Sivray. And he said to me, "Andy, you have a choice in your thoughts." Now, think how revolutionary that is. It isn't, right? To me, at 24, no one had ever told me in my life that that was an option. I remember stopping him very vividly. I went, whoa, what did you just say, Pete? And he goes, Andy, you have a choice in your thoughts. I was like, wow. And then the other thing was my grandma, my nan. Now, you heard probably this story many times, you're an old school listener, but it makes me emotional, but I'm not going to get emotional with this one. This was a lady who was 86 years old, read thousands and thousands of books. Up until she passed away, I was still talking to her about astral physics, quantum physics, reality, spirituality. She knew everything about everything. Completely uneducated, no money, but was hyper intelligent, very connected to herself. And I said to her, and I had it recorded somewhere, and it breaks my heart that it disappeared. But I said to her, this is me, I talk like this, right? No matter who's in front of me, royalty or homeless, this is me. And I said to her, all right, Nan, you're 86 years old, lying on your deathbed. What's the golden nuggets of life? It just like blows my mind, this. She paused. She turned to me and said, none of this matters. And I said to her, what do you mean none of this matters? And she said to me, do you think that any of the grudges you've held, any of the things you've done or not done, any of the resentment you have, any of the wealth you got or didn't get, do you think any of that matters when you're lying on your deathbed at 86 years old?
No, it does not.
Not one thing. So some people would take that as like, well, what's the point in effing trying? I took that as like, whoa, what's the point in effing not trying? What's the point in not giving everything that we've got to make ourselves happy, to follow our intuition, to tune our brains up, to be around the right people? Because when you look at like a billionaire who's made it from scratch, we look at, how did you do that? How have you become like Jeff Bezos, right? How have you done that? Because you went from nothing, literally nothing, and you've become $165 billion wealthy. Now, he's not the richest man in the world. We're talking trillionaires when we go into the Saudis. He's far from the richest man in the world. But it's not bad. He's done all right, right? $165 billion. But he came from nothing. So what limit are you putting around yourself? We have the same 24 hours in a day. We have the same brain, we have the same body, we have the same world that we're living in. So what makes you different from him? He's not better than you. He's not better than us. He's just, obviously he's quite clever. Obviously he's worked his ass off to a level that most people can't even comprehend.
Well, we bring it back to something we spoke about several times already. It's action. His action things. The actions that he's done has put him where he is.
And his actions in... And you know he's going to hurt people on the way, because that's what it probably takes. You know, because he's going to put his emotions, his mission first above someone else's heart emotions. But I believe at that level of business, you have to be a little bit of a sociopath. And I don't mean that he's a sociopath in every area of his life, but I believe there's a certain sociopathness that comes with creating that level of success. And it's the same with an athlete, it's the same in everything, you know? You have to be just so focused, obsessed with a certain goal, that things do get hurt on the way, unfortunately, because you can't have balance. There's no balance there. You think Jeff Bezos had balance growing Amazon? I think he does now, but he didn't then. Now he wakes up, he gets 8 hours sleep, he spends time with his kids in the morning, he finishes at 5 o'clock. Well, I'm sure it wasn't like that on the way. So, what's my point? My point to wrapping all this up is like, there is no limits. You can do whatever you want. If you're struggling right now and you're in a dark place, who cares? You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know who's going to pick that phone up and change your life. We've all been there. I've lived out of my car. I've lived on couches. I've not been able to afford food. I've not been able to afford rent. I have been in the most darkest, horriblest circumstances. But guess what took me out of that? Martial arts, basically, but action. You know?
Action.
So, I'm ranting on, but we're going to wrap it up now, Leo. So, Leo, tell me about, one, where people can find you.
They can find me on Instagram, Activate Yoga Worldwide.
Activate Yoga Worldwide. We're going to put links everywhere.
Okay, you can also find the webpage Activate Yoga Colombia should you want to participate in a retreat or one of the courses. If you're traveling, you want to come to Colombia and experience everything here.
And they do a 21-day ashram experience. Think about that, right? So tell them a little bit about Liverpool.
So the Liverpool is going to happen in June. It will be 21 days. It's not residential. It is intensive, 8 hours a day, Monday to Saturday. It's a 200-hour certification. At the end of it, it's with the Yoga Alliance, so it's internationally recognized.
That's
you
brilliant.
will learn all you need to about yoga to improve your life, improve your practice, and also teach, which again can change your life in terms of your earning potential, how you go about structuring your life. It's a real transformative program.
That's amazing.
You go in as one person and you come out as another.
That's awesome. So where can people find out about that? On the same places?
In the same places, through my social media, through the webpage,
I'll put links there for everybody.
Activate Yoga Colombia, also Activate Yoga on Instagram and on Facebook.
Beautiful, mate. Is there any words of wisdom you want to leave the Mindset by Design crew with?
Action. Listen to yourself. Listen to all the advice in the world that you're given. Take on what you need. Get rid of what you don't. And take action.
Beautiful, mate. Beautiful. So, we'll put links everywhere. I would usually, you'd hear an intro, an outro music. You'd hear this pump up in the middle. We didn't get any of that.
Do you want me to sing?
No.
Oh.
But thank you, mate. Just smile for me. That's the tune, right?
I was going to say, I know it.
You do it? There you go, mate. See, it's anchored into people's brains. So, until the next time, much love. And, why don't you smile for me?